Today on the podcast, we want to talk about how to use the new ChatGPT app integrations. They have a bunch of interesting ones that they've been kind of working on this for a while, but they have a bunch of new interesting ones that are pretty useful, including DoorDash, Spotify, Uber. There's a bunch of others. We wanted to break down how to use a couple of these. And also, we wanted to talk about OpenAI's new quote unquote secret $100 million investment fund that a bunch of their alumni, so it's not directly OpenAI, but a lot of the OpenAI alumni are investing with, and what that means for kind of the AI industry. What areas, not just are they investing in, but also what areas are they skipping? What areas they're not investing in? And I think that's one of the, one of the juiciest bits of that story is maybe what industries they think are going to be going away. So anyways, we'll get into all of that. Before we do, Jamie, do you want to tell everyone about the school community?
Yeah, if you've ever been interested in, learning how to actually make money with AI, grow your business, or even consult others, you really want to check out our AI Hustle School community. Each week we release bonus content over there. We've been doing it for a couple of years now, so we have about 100 episodes over there of bonus content, and we go into specific strategies Jaden and I are using to actually make money with AI. So Jaden has launched a business in the past 12 hours, actually, or he's just working on it. And so he walked us through this week how he went from idea to execution, what he's doing, and what his business model is. And so it's just a really great place to be inspired to learn how to use some of these tools. And we'd love to have you be a part of it. It's $19 a month, and you can lock that price in today, and we'll never raise it on you if you join. So go check that out. But let's talk about ChatGPT here. I think the direction they're headed is an interesting one. We heard last week that Sora, the AI video generation, part of OpenAI is being discontinued. They're shutting that down because it was losing millions of dollars. And then now we hear that they're using some new app integrations, including DoorDash, Spotify, Uber, and others. So these are some helpful plugins, and I think they're really trying to figure out who their target customer is here. Claude has made huge leaps and bounds in the past month as far as users. People are finding out about all its capabilities. Tons of business owners and coders are using it, where I think OpenAI is trying to reach more of the common person. And that's, to me, some of these app integrations point to that. DoorDash being one, the Spotify integration, you can tell it to create personalized playlists that'll show up right in your Spotify app. So I think they're trying to make these tools for the common person who's using AI. I think when AI first became a thing, it was synonymous with ChatGPT. That was AI. And so I think from a marketing perspective, most people still think of ChatGPT as AI. They don't know about Claude or Gemini. Well, maybe Gemini, but so all I'm saying is I think they're trying to cater in that direction by making all these connectors with common apps that people use every day. But Jane, what do you think about this?
There's so many apps. I mean, I want to go through a bunch of the integrations because I think there's some cool ones. Apparently, one of the newest ones they just added is Angie, which, if for those old enough to have been on the internet for more than a year, I guess they rebranded. It used to be Angie's List, I think, right?
Yep.
Now we're calling it Angie. I guess I was unaware. I've been using Thumbtack, but in any case, and I'm not gonna roast all these companies, but I just have to show you the press release from Angie's List. It is just like the most ugly looking website I've seen in my whole life. Nothing less from what I would expect Angie's List to post. It's like Craigslist level. Anyways, their main website's not so bad, but that's a pretty brutal press release. My eyes are bleeding. In any case, what's really cool about this, as far as integration goes, you just literally can be chatting with ChatGPT, and this is, the most used AI model, 900 million weekly active users. You're chatting with it. You're like, hey, maybe take a picture. You're like, hey, I want, how could I remodel this room to, make better space? My wife has actually done this in our schoolroom when we first moved into this house. She, took a bunch of pictures and was like, hey, I want this to be like magical fairy kids playroom with lots of wood stuff and, just like a lot of wood things. I can't remember what the keyword is for that, Jamie. Kids toys are all wood.
Maybe, or
Montessori. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So she puts all these keywords in and it redesigned, and then she literally went to Amazon and bought this weird thing that came down, this tent that came from the ceiling, and this big circle cushion and all the stuff that ChatGPT designed. She went and bought it all on Amazon, and it actually looks amazing. Um, you could do a very similar thing. So I'm like seeing that experience. You could do a very similar thing with Angie's List where you take a picture of your backyard and you're like, ChatGPT, help me design a garden. And then you're like, sweet. Can you go to Angie's List and go find like a gardener or a landscaper that could come and like put that rock in there or these like different things that I need? So I think if people are already brainstorming and kind of visualizing some home improvements, um, an Angie's List integration is amazing. Sure, you could go over to Angie's List, but if it's right there, you could tell ChatGPT like, hey, based off of this design and where I'm at today, go message like some people on Angie's List that I need to do some of these things. So I think there's some cool things. I always do question whether it needs to be a ChatGPT integration. Like, could I just go to the Angie's List app? But I think ChatGPT is kind of turning into like almost a personal assistant, like basically what Siri should have been. And it's funny to me that like Apple got so far behind on AI and Siri got so far behind that now we're literally just using this AI company as like a replacement to Siri, where, you know, eventually
Yeah.
it might have integrations with every app on your phone. And so instead of going to Siri or going to your phone and opening anything up, you could just have ChatGPT open and be like, hey, go, you know, book me an Uber. That's another one they have. Go book me an Uber from this place to this place. I need to leave right now. And it can just like open up the Uber and do it without you having to open up the app and actually do it. I like this concept with phones. I hate clicking buttons and digging through UI. So I really like the concept of talking. I imagine Siri is going to be able to do a lot of this stuff on its own eventually, but ChatGPT seems to be kind of taking the cake right now and just integrating everything right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of other ones. There's Expedia, Figma, Spotify, Target, Uber, Wix, Zillow, which some of these have been on there a while. I know the Zillow one,
Yep.
which honestly at first wasn't too impressed with. Same with the Canva integration. It could,
Yep.
make Canva templates for you, but it wasn't really that great from a graphic design perspective. I'm curious to see if that's changed at all because it's probably been at least 6 months since I've played around with that. But let us know if you guys have had a different experience. But yeah, so some of these, but nonetheless, these are some pretty cool integrations. I love how you said, just integrate using it almost as like a Siri, a personal assistant. So I think this is kind of the direction they're heading as a company, which I think is great. I think they'll be very successful, or they already are. But I still prefer. I'm a big fan of Claude right now. I don't know, Jane. What do you think?
Yeah, honestly, if you're using it for work, I think Claude is going to be the way to go. If you're using it for more general stuff, like, you know, there's like a Coursera template on ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT could be great for just your average user. Coursera, you know, they have like an integration where you're like, hey, find me an intermediate level course on Python, and it could do it. And I think eventually probably you'll be talking with ChatGPT and it will understand what level you're at something and you could ask it for a course. I also think the Coursera integration is interesting because you technically could just chat with ChatGPT to get it to teach you, but maybe you don't know what you don't know. But you could probably tell it to make you a course, and it could probably make you a course. So I think Coursera is trying to get in there before people maybe realize that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you're trying to do some serious business stuff, then Claude's going to take over. But a lot of these just regular DoorDash, Expedia, Figma, Quizlet, Spotify, Target, like just your average person, your average suburban mom is going to absolutely love these integrations on ChatGPT. It's going to be super useful. So I think they're kind of different audiences right now. The big question is who's going to spend the most money? And it feels like developers, blue collar or white collar workers are spending the most money on Anthropic, and so they're getting a big chunk of the market. Okay, the other story we wanted to talk about was all of the different investments. There's a group of people. They're all from previously at OpenAI, so they're all coming together, and they've started a new fund called Zero Shot. They were working on Codex and Dolly and ChatGPT, and so one of them I guess was hosting the OpenAI podcast. So they were doing all sorts of things inside of OpenAI. Which, by the way, that just means that Jamie or I could be running this fund at some point after running this podcast. So you might see us in Zero Shot soon. But what's interesting to me was they basically said they saw a bunch of holes in the market that no one was filling, and they decided that they wanted to fill those, which was interesting. They raised $100 million, or I guess they're in the process of raising $100 million. And they're going to start investing in some interesting areas. Now, one thing that I thought was interesting was areas they were going to skip, areas that they were going to not invest in. So one of those that they're apparently bearish on, Maine, one of the people investing in it, was iterations of vibe coding, because he says that model makers with their coding expertise are going to quickly make subscriptions to those platforms feel very unnecessary. And I'm actually curious your take on this, Jamie. I mean, as someone that sort of has a like a vibe coding platform myself, I'll have an opinion on this, but I want to hear your take on where you think that's kind of going in the future.
Yeah, so I think what you're getting at is, let's say, because I'm a big fan of Lovable, I use Lovable to design lots of websites and things like that. Um, why would you use Lovable when you can just use Claude Code to make your site? I think there's an aspect right now, at least, of I'm not a coder. I'm not, and then so I like the visual, still like drag and drop style of some of these companies like Lovable, where you can visually see the edits pop up as you're making them, and so. But I think what they're saying is eventually that's going to go away. Is that kind of what they're getting at? You think?
That's what they think. That's their speculation, is that the AI models are going to get so good you won't have a subscription to Lovable. And it's actually interesting because I do see this a couple different ways. As someone that has spent over $1,000 on Lovable making websites, um, I just last week, I actually transferred my biggest Lovable project off of Lovable onto its own server, and I used Claude Code to kind of get it up and running. And then I did build a brand new software just with Claude Code, not on Lovable. That was my first shot. And there's a couple interesting things that I feel like I learned from that whole experience. So, like, partially, yes, the AI models are just getting so much better. But at the same time, I do think that there's always going to be, and maybe the big AI model companies will address this. And if they address it, we're going to be fine. Or it'll be, maybe then this theory will be correct. But right now, like, if you're using Claude Code, I'm not a developer, and I'm mad by how much coding I had to learn to basically use this. And Lovable solves a lot of the problems with like setting up your backend. I never knew anything about backends. And even using something like Claude Cowork or Claude Code, it was still like, oh, I'm having a glitch where I can't access your Supabase. Like, go into your Supabase settings and set up a new instance and grab this API key and give it to me. And I'm like, no, like, do this yourself. Lovable used to do it for me. The other thing that I really
Right.
liked about Lovable was that it always had the side screen, which was live showing you stuff. So you don't need to like run a local thing or get it to like, it probably seems so ghetto to developers, but like right now, how I'm using Claude Code is it will like build me an HTML of the website and give me a link that I click on, and it opens up in my browser, and I'm like, change this, change that. And then it
Right.
like goes back and forth with me 100 times. Just Lovable solves so many of those problems that I think, for non-coders, if you're getting something basic started, especially like a website or something, it's really the way to go. It also, the designs do just look better coming out of it. They have some cool secret sauce in there to make the designs look better. So I think Lovable has a lot of perks to it. If you're going to build something with real software behind it, like it actually has to do something, I don't think you can rely on Lovable. And that's actually kind of the in-between market that I go with for my startup, which is AI Box. Basically, I've had problems in the past where I built a tool on Lovable and it was supposed to generate an AI podcast. And I put my API key into 11 Labs, generated, left for an hour, came back, realized there was a glitch, and it burnt through $1,300 of my 11 Labs tokens, which was very painful. And it did all of that because there was like a glitch in the Lovable code and it kept just regenerating the podcast over and over again. So if you wanted to avoid that, what I now do is I just have tools on my startup, which is AI Box. It's like it's just like super pinned down when it comes to generating the actual content, generating an actual video, image, or audio file without like vibe coding and putting your API in just does that sometimes to you, and it really sucks. So if you go to something like AI Box, if you build a tool that's going to generate like, I have a tool that generates 20 images on a specific topic for sleep history podcast episodes on YouTube. And so when I have that tool set up on AI Box, I can have Claude Cowork or Claude Code go to AI Box and generate that, but I know it's going to generate it perfectly. It also generates all 20 simultaneously instead of having to do them one at a time. So that's kind of where I'm building to, is like tools that help support vibe coding. That's what I'm turning AI Box into. And I think that like partially, yes, they're right, but there is so many holes in that for people that are not developers that I think you're going to still use Lovable. It's going to have its place. I almost built a website on Lovable yesterday, even after going back and forth on it all. So I think at the end of the day, you're still going to use a lot of these different platforms.
Yeah. So Zero Shot is not basically saying they're not backing those types of companies. A couple they have backed. One is called Worktrace AI. It's a AI based management software platform, so it helps enterprises automate tasks by discovering what should be automated. So they, they when in that funding round, they also are looking into. There's also Foundry Robotics. So it sounds like they're interested in robotics and management. But yeah, at this point, it looks like not into vibe coding. But yeah, interesting nonetheless that they have started their own fund.
Yep, this is fascinating. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. If you enjoyed the episode today, make sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, make sure to go check out the AI Hustle school community where you get access to over 100 videos breaking down what we are actively building, how we're growing and scaling our businesses with AI, how much revenue we're making, all of our side hustles, all of that. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. We'll see you all in the next episode.